Welcome everyone to Bus Simulator 21 and a video that I'm hoping will give you the information you need to lessen just a little bit of the frustration that can easily happen early on in the game. In today's video, we're going to talk about adding buses to existing routes. We're going to talk about leveling up bus stops, how to do it and how does it happen, leveling up districts, and then creating routes and how all of that can fit together to make you more money. So to get started, we need to hop into the map screen, my absolute favorite screen in the game. You can see here early on in the game we have a few different areas unlocked. So let's tackle the first thing first, how to add a bus to an existing route. Well, for that we're going to need our routes, and that is on the left hand side of the map screen. I'm simply going to click on the routes and you can see we have 4 of those early on. I'm simply going to select route number 4. And as I click on that, it gives us a lot of useful information. But for our purposes right now, we're going to focus on this demand area. Because here it shows 2 of 2 plus 0 of 1 during this certain time slot. And to get an idea of exactly what this is talking about, we need to come into the calendar screen, which is right near the top of this window, just below the drive now in the center. So I'm going to click there, and this gives us the information we need to know. So it shows us that we have a full-time route going from 4 o'clock in the morning through midnight. We need to have 1 bus on this particular route, and you can see we already have a bus there. Now, should I decide that I need to move this bus, I simply hit the minus key here, and then we can add a new one by simply coming over to the top left-hand corner and selecting add a full-time bus. Now that is going to take us to our garage screen, which shows all the buses we currently have in our company. And then we can simply select the one that we want. And it's pretty handy that you already have any buses that are already assigned to a route are going to show you which route they're assigned to, making it very easy to find any buses that you have purchased and not yet assigned to a route. So I'm going to press escape, cancel back to our route. So now you notice that we have a couple of peak time sections. So 4 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock, so that morning rush. And then we're going to have the evening rush from basically 2 o'clock through 7 o'clock in the evening. We can also add a bus there by simply clicking on the add peak time bus, and that is going to add into those slots. So now that we know how to add a bus into those slots, let's come back out and let's talk a little bit more about this demand function. You see here, this is 2 of 2, meaning that the type of bus, the size of bus, and the capacity matches up perfectly with this particular route and the demand that it has. And in this case, we see that we don't have any peak time buses assigned, so we're missing out on some revenue in this particular area. Right now, we're making just shy of 17 grand per day on this one. So that's okay for now, but as we continue to grow, we're going to want to fill up all of the demand. And in this case, for route number 4, we need to add in some peak time supply and demand issues as well. So if we come down, we take a look at route number 3, you can see we've got very much the same issue. I come in, we've got 1 full-time route that runs from 4 o'clock to midnight. We have a bus assigned there. Again, hitting the minus key can remove that bus should you decide you need to move it to a different route. And then of course we can add a peak time bus because this particular route only has 1 peak time, and that is very late in the evening. So now we're going to come back out to the route, and we're actually going to go to route number 1 because here you notice that demand is 4 of 3, meaning that we're supplying more than is actually demanded. And then we have the very same thing here for peak demand. So let's hop in, and you can see here we're using a Mercedes-Benz Citaro G. Now the Citaro G is a much bigger bus, and normally I would not have purchased that, but if you've played through any of the campaign in the game, this is a bus that's given to you pretty early on in the game, so I simply put it on this particular route. But it is bigger and has much more capacity than this particular route has need for, so in my case, I'm going to leave it here for now. But as we get later on in the game and we have some more routes that have bigger capacity needs, I'm simply going to move this one over to that new route. So for right now, it's fine, but in the future, that is something to keep a lookout for. So if you're looking through your routes, you can very quickly and easily understand exactly what type of demand you have and how well you are fulfilling that demand simply by clicking through each of the routes and looking for the demand. Now let's move back to the map screen because we want to talk about the individual districts and the bus stops. So as things stand right now, we're looking at a whole lot of bus stops, some which may or may not be used on a particular route. So I am going to click on, let's actually move this around a little bit. I'm going to click on the Jetty Drive stop. In case you're wondering, in the top left-hand corner here of the map, as soon as I mouse over one of these stops, you can see the name and location of it, and you see that this stop level is actually 3 of 3. So what does that mean? Well, it has gone from a stop level 1 to a stop level 3 because I have serviced this stop quite a bit. You can see here that it is connected on 2 routes right now. Generates a little bit of maintenance, but that is certainly no issue. Now the bus stop type, we'll come back to that in just a moment when we talk about creating routes. But the connected routes, there are 2 routes, and this is quite a busy stop. So the more you service a route, the quicker it will actually upgrade itself from a stop level 1 to a stop level 2, and then 3, and then so on. So the way you upgrade stops is by simply servicing them. And in this case, we have 2 connected routes here. On this one here, at this particular stop, we don't have any connected routes, and you can see not only is it a stop level 1, but there is absolutely no shaded area on our progress bar here. If we come back to the Jetty Drive, you can see that we are, not only are we 3 of 3, but we're getting close to halfway on the stop level progress bar, which means we're getting closer and closer to this being a stop level 4. Now, why do we care? Well, we care because in order to upgrade any of these districts, you notice as I mouse over a district, you can see that all of these stops that are within this area are highlighted. We need to upgrade these stops to level 2 at least before we can get Oakwood, in this case, to a level 2. So the way you upgrade the different districts is to upgrade all of the stops within those districts. So that means you've got a lot of work to do. So of course, that's going to mean that you're going to want some different routes using these different stops. And then of course, that opens up some opportunities to go between the different districts using these different stops, and so that you can upgrade several different districts all at one time simply by servicing the individual stops. Now, so when we were back on looking at an individual stop, you notice it says bus stop type, and in this case it's purple and it shows a down arrow and 1. So let's talk about what that means and how that's used in the game. If we go under create a route, and you're going to do this fairly on in the game, but if you're like me, you might not have been perfectly clear on exactly what it was trying to get you to do at first. May have taken you a moment, or at least it did for me. So now we're creating a brand new route, and for those of you who may have missed it, I'm going to come back out. We're going to click on create a route, which is at the bottom of the screen. We can also press Q to accomplish the same thing. Now we get a chance to see our map, and you notice that we've got purple with the down arrow and 1, and then we've got sort of a greenish color with an up arrow and 1. These are supply and demand. If you look in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, the route demand, we want to balance this, which means that in this case, they're all 1s. So we want to balance all of the up arrow and 1 with the down arrow and 1. So if we create a quick route here, this is not something we're going to save, but let's go ahead and get an up 1, and you notice there we go. You see the route demand. It tells us that this route is not balanced right now. We have a +1 here. So now we're going to need to do a down arrow and 1 in order to balance this out. And in this case, I'm simply going to go over here to a different district, go from St. Anthony over to Oakwood. Now I press on the down arrow 1, and we're balanced. Once again, we have an up arrow 1 and a down arrow 1, so a plus and a -1. And then as I go around and click on the different 1s, we're unbalancing it, and then we're balancing it back again. So this is what you strive to achieve. You want each of your routes to be balanced on the supply and the demand side. So hopefully today's video has helped you with some information that you needed to help enjoy the game even more. So that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and stick around for more Bus Simulator 21.